Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, I'm going to be doing not a hypnosis session, but just some insights, benefits, metaphors, and tips. Because it occurred to me that it's just been 6 years since I made the decision to no longer drink alcohol. And of all the decisions I've made, this has got to be up there in the top few in terms of making the decision and getting the benefits of that decision. And I thought it's worth just sharing some of the benefits that I found or people find when changing their relationship with alcohol, because sometimes all you need is a reason. And whenever I work with a client that wants to create some kind of a change, there's two questions that I normally ask. And the first is an obvious question, like, why do you want to make that change? And sometimes it could be for confidence or health benefits or high self-esteem or just a feeling of desire to make that change. Interestingly, one good reason is way more important than lots of less emotive reasons. I remember working with a client who wanted to quit smoking, and I said, why? And he was a single guy, and he just said he wants to have more opportunities to date better, what he said, quality women, and he knew he could do that if he was a non-smoker. So it doesn't even have to be for what most people would consider, let's say, the right reasons. Most people would quit smoking for health. He wasn't concerned about his health. He was concerned about dating and finding an attractive woman, and he thought he could get that more by being a non-smoker. All you need is a reason. So the reason for me sharing perhaps a few benefits of quitting alcohol is one of these may resonate with you. One of them may just click and you're like, yeah, that's a good reason. And changing your relationship with alcohol doesn't have to mean quitting. It could just mean reducing the amount or reducing, let's say, emotive drinking if you're feeling stressed or anxious. So here's a few benefits of, let's say, either quitting alcohol or just reducing the harmful alcohol. And the number one benefit is improved physical health. The moment that you either reduce alcohol or no longer drink alcohol, the risk of developing numerous health issues, things like liver diseases, things like cirrhosis and fatty liver, cardiovascular problems, so it could be heart attacks, strokes, certain types of cancer, they dramatically reduce. So if there's a part of you that just feels that maybe you're drinking more than you would want to, and you want to have that improved physical health, that could be a reason. Number two, enhanced mental well-being. I put a social media post up earlier today that, it's been 6 years since I made the decision to quit drinking. And a couple of the comments were just, yeah, I did the same a few years back, and I've never thought so clearly. My mind has never been so clear. So that is a very, very good reason. Alcohol can exacerbate anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts. And if you either quit or reduce alcohol, then it can lead to massively improved mood, it can reduce stress levels and give you a better overall mental health just by making that one change. A lot of people that listen to my show are doing it because they want to sleep better. The number of messages that I get of people just saying, I fall asleep while listening to the podcast lets me know that sleep is one of the reasons that people want to hear hypnosis and they want to kind of feel relaxed. And while alcohol may make you feel sleepy initially, it actually does disrupt the sleep cycle. So when you either reduce or eliminate alcohol, it actually encourages much better quality sleep, particularly the deep sleep. The restorative sleep can improve massively once you make that change. It can also really be beneficial when it comes to weight management. And people think in terms of the macros, so proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And within carbohydrates, you've got your starchy carbs and your sugary carbs. There is a useful way of thinking about alcohol as the fourth macro. And the reason for that is that it tends to be quite calorie dense and doesn't tend to have a lot of nutritional benefits. Now, there are exceptions of that. Certain red wines, for example, have lots of flavonoids, and they can have, certain micronutrients and compounds in there that can improve actually cardiovascular health. But the alcohol itself tends to have a lot of calories and no nutrition whatsoever. It's just what's around the kind of the alcohol. So given that it is calorie dense, it can then contribute to weight gain. And a number of my clients that have struggled with weight, you figure out that they're consuming thousands of calories per week from alcoholic drinks. And that can be the high calorie drinks like beer and wine, for example. So if you were to eliminate, let's say, beer or wine, it could massively reduce the amount of calories that you're consuming over a certain period of time. It's when you zoom out and you think of what's the consequence of that one change over a long period of time. It can actually mean that people dramatically lose excess body fat. And by the way, I'm saying this from a perspective of only make a change if you want to make a change. If you feel that you've got a great relationship with alcohol and that there isn't a need to change, then don't. My approach is never judgmental or evangelical. It was the right choice for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean it would be the right choice for someone else. My kind of philosophy is each to their own, and people are free to do whatever they want. I take a lot of pride in helping people to make the changes that they want to make. So please don't interpret any of this as kind of Adam's telling me I should quit drink. No, only quit drinking as much if you want to quit drinking as much, and if you resonate with some of these benefits and feel that reducing alcohol could help do that. So we talked about weight management. It also has an impact on energy levels. So alcohol is a natural sedative, and therefore it has certain depressive effects. Also, because it's calorie dense, sometimes you can have that kind of sugar crash. The glycogen levels can really go through the floor the day after drinking a lot. That's why people tend to crave carby kind of foods to get their energy levels up. So you may notice that if you were to reduce the amount of alcohol, that your energy levels go up and you might be more productive or more focused or more mentally clear. And it's productive time, and that productive time is for whatever you want to put it to. It doesn't have to be to work. It could be going for a jog or working out or doing something creative. But that kind of increased physical energy, but also mental energy, is quite useful once the alcohol levels go down. It can also have a huge benefit for financial savings. And I know a lot of my listeners, just based on the demographics that I get, are quite well off. So therefore, the financial savings is never really the key motive, but for some people it will be. And if you add up all of those kind of beers, wines, and kind of spirits and that kind of stuff, it could... In fact, I remember working with a client that he was a smoker and a drinker, and we kind of calculated that if he would have utilized that same money that he found a way to spend on cigarettes and alcohol, he would have been able to buy a house with a level of deposit that could have appreciated in value. So it's not just this zero-sum game of money spent, it's the opportunity cost of what that money could have been allocated on. And a lot of restaurants and a lot of experiences, they make their money in the alcohol sales, because after a few drinks, people aren't really thinking about the price. They're just eager to kind of drink more, and that can have lead to quite big bills. So it could be that there's financial savings. For a lot of people that I work with that have made the decision to change their relationship with alcohol, quite often the catalyst for that is that their current relationship with alcohol is causing problems in their personal relationship. So quite often the payoff of either quitting alcohol or reducing it significantly is that it can lead to better communication, stronger relationships, particularly with family and friends, as quite often the reckless or erratic behavior or extreme behavior that can be there when people are under the influence of alcohol tends not to be there. So much better decision making, much better communication, less arguments, that kind of stuff. I've touched on this a little bit before, but it's worth highlighting that when there is a massive reduction in alcohol consumption, it tends to be measurably possible to see enhanced cognitive function. So it can improve memory, focus, overall brain function. And, there is this, kind of bit of a cliche, a bit of a narrative around, someone gets really drunk. It's like, oh, well, I've killed off a few brain cells. But actually it can be destructive to some of the neurology around it, just because of the nature of alcohol. And it's one of the things that has been tested. I'm a big fan of going on Google Scholar, which isn't normally the part of Google that most people check out. But if you were to look at just alcohol and, let's say, cognitive function, you're going to see study after study where it's provable that alcohol reduces alertness, focus, response times, all of these things. That's what it does. Next key benefit is a stronger immune system. That people who typically drink a lot tend to get sick more often. So if you do choose to reduce the amount of alcohol that you consume or you quit altogether, don't be surprised if there's a few weeks where you feel worse to begin with, but then you feel better. And that's because your body is no longer using the internal resources to kind of heal from the drinking. If you think about what your liver is for, it has to get that alcohol out of your body. Otherwise, you would die of alcohol poisoning. So you're giving it a lot to do. And the moment it doesn't have that work to do, it can be used to heal yourself and repair and all of that kind of stuff. So generally making you a lot healthier. So again, if you like the idea of having a stronger immune system, being sick less, having more energy, again, it could just be something to think about. And then the final key benefit of changing a relationship with alcohol is the reduced risk of accidents. And I remember when I was, and I've never been an alcoholic, but there would be certain times that when I did drink, I would drink to the point of recklessness. And I've still got a vivid memory of one New Year's Eve, and I was doing chin-ups on a lamppost. And at the time, it just seemed like it was fun. And it was the following day or a few days later, I remember walking down the street and seeing how high that lamppost was and just thinking, all it would have taken is one slip and I could have been paralyzed and spent the rest of my life in a wheelchair. And there was a couple of cases that I would say I had a near miss. Something could have gone horribly wrong, but it didn't. And that actually was part of my decision-making process to quit alcohol, that actually these kind of accidents or near misses were just unlikely to happen if I wasn't a drinker. So without that alcohol impairing judgment and coordination, you're less likely to experience accidents or injuries related to intoxication. A lot of people that get into fights on a Friday, Saturday night tend to be intoxicated. A lot of people that end up in jail quite often is because they were doing something under the influence of alcohol at that particular time. A lot of suicide attempts are actually while under the influence of alcohol. So when you remove that alcohol element, it kind of, that probability tree, it shuts off so many things that could really only happen if you were under the influence. And I've had many clients that were addicted to, let's say, harder substances, particularly cocaine. And quite often they would only consume cocaine if they were already under the influence of alcohol, just because of the effect it has on that prefrontal cortex. So when you change the relationship with alcohol, don't be surprised if lots of other things improve as well. Again, only if you think it's the right thing for you to do. So before I end this, and I realize that this isn't a hypnosis session, but at the same time, I've probably done about at least maybe 20 or 25 alcohol-related hypnosis sessions. So if you are hoping to listen to an alcohol-related hypnosis session, all I would encourage you to do is to put alcohol in this search bar under my podcast, and it will come up with at least kind of 10 different ones that you can listen to. So check them out. But I thought before I end, there's a few metaphors that I think, again, may be useful for this idea of alcohol, because you could think of any form of addiction as almost being chained. You know, there is this kind of bondage, this feeling of being trapped. And the symbol, if you were to just put freedom in Google Images, quite often what you're going to see is people with hands raised above their head. And every now and then you'll see some kind of, could be handcuffs or shackles that are kind of broken. So breaking the chains is a very good metaphor for breaking an addiction. And it's worth also highlighting that, I think one of the most vile, people on the planet are human traffickers. And human traffickers typically have what's called a modus operandi. They have a way of controlling people. And one of the ways in which they control the people that they traffic, they take away their options. So take away passports, money, right of communication like a cell phone and things like that. But they also try and get them addicted to something. And that thing that they're addicted to is only available from them. So it can be seen as not just breaking the chains, this kind of almost like lack of freedom, but it can be seen as a form of slavery as well, that you are a slave to your addiction. Again, only if you make the evaluation that it is an addiction. Another useful metaphor is to think of it as emerging from a fog, that actually sometimes you don't realize you're in a fog until you're out of the fog, because you just get used to that lack of vision. But if you think of you're in a very foggy environment, you can't really see too far ahead, and then you emerge from the fog, you'd have so much more clarity and vision after leaving that haziness. And it does affect people's judgment. It does, people's motivation to, do something creative or productive or pursue their goals or go to the gym after 2 or 3 beers, it declines massively. So again, it can really be a dampener on people. So again, you could think of it as a fog that you emerge from. A great metaphor for any kind of change is turning the page. One of my mentors, Richard Bandler, the one of the co-founders of NLP, has this kind of metaphor, another day, another page. And actually, if you look at a key decision as starting a new chapter in life, then it frees you from this idea that it has to be, yesterday drifts into today, drifts in tomorrow. At any point in time, you can turn the page and start a brand new chapter. And that could be just the decision of making a change. And that change could be to change your relationship with alcohol. Another metaphor could be to reclaim the driver's seat. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to any form of addictions or dependency, they kind of feel like they're a bit of a passenger, and that actually a different part of them is, making these kind of choices. That's certainly how I felt. There would be a certain line that I would cross that I would kind of not really be aware of what I was doing after that point. And it wouldn't happen all the time, but it would happen enough to make me wake up feeling anxious the next day and wondering what I said. Did I offend someone? Did I annoy someone? That element was I wasn't in control, and there was a different part of me in control. So the point when I decided to no longer drink, I felt that I was reclaiming the driver's seat, that I was taking control of my life again. And I became, the captain of my ship, the architect of my blueprint for my life. And I was steering it in the direction where I wanted to take it, rather than what can be the case if people drink a lot. It can just lead them to unexpected paths that are detrimental in some way. And the final metaphor I'm going to give you is this metaphor of extinguishing a flame. And if you think of any kind of destructive behavior as like a fire in your home would cause damage, it would be destructive. So putting out that destructive fire not only prevents further harm, but it also creates a lot more of a safe environment. And for me, I found that a lot of really bad decisions were made under the influence of alcohol, and it was destructive. It was destructive to certain friendships, certain working relationships. And the moment that decision was made, it kind of felt a real sense of liberation and freedom. Now, again, this is not preachy. You might listen to this and think, you know what, I'm quite happy drinking what I drink. Makes me feel good. It helps me socialize with friends. And that's fine, because at the very beginning of this, I did mention there was 2 questions that I asked clients. And the first is, why would you want to change? And that can be a compelling reason. It can be a really good reason. The more important question I ask is, what would you stand to lose if you made a change? And that's normally what keeps people stuck in a certain pattern. And a lot of people that drink alcohol have the belief system that it's the only way to have fun, that they would be boring. I think there was a character in Friends years back called Fun Bobby. And the moment Fun Bobby stops drinking, Fun Bobby isn't fun anymore. And I think a lot of people connect with that idea that actually they're just more fun to be around, and it would be boring if they didn't drink. There might be other reasons as well that you might feel like you're going to lose friendships and things like that. I would say that is a fantastic question to ask yourself, that if you are thinking about making any change, and that change could be alcohol or a recreational drug or excess food or gambling or whatever it might be, what do you stand to lose if you made that positive change? And whatever that is, there will be a belief built around that, and that's the real reason that you're not changing. It's not because the benefits are so good, it's because you fear losing something that you value. And quite often that thing that you think you're going to lose isn't even true. I thought, for me, there's certain places I wouldn't be able to go to. For example, I went to Vegas for my 30th and 40th birthday. I was under the influence of a lot of alcohol on both trips. I thought, I can't go back to Vegas if I don't drink. And I've since been back 3 times as part of a conference as a non-drinker. Vegas is a very different place, but it's not a bad place if you don't drink. So it's worth looking at what is stopping you from making the change. And if you feel that you would need or want help to make that change, I've been doing this a lot for a lot of different people, but I've also made lots of changes in my own life. I used to have lots of severe anxieties and lots of, destructive behavior myself. And I don't have, I'm by no means perfect, but I don't have a lot of those issues that I've had before. And I would say that makes someone a good therapist if they've worked on themselves and seen results and helped a lot of other people get results as well, is better. I would say be very cautious around any therapist or any change worker that says they're perfect and they've always been perfect and they've had no issues. I would say that's probably a front. That's probably a mask. And it seems disingenuous because I've worked with a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds and I'm yet to meet a single person that has their life in order. Everyone has things they're working on. Everyone has certain, regrets and things that cause shame or frustration because we're all human, and that's not a bad thing. But if you do want to make a change and you feel like a hypnotherapist, perhaps someone like me, could help, there will be a link in the show notes where you can schedule that free consultation call. Again, please don't take this as kind of preachy because I think each to their own. I quite like it when I hang out with other people that drink. That's their choice. My choice is different and there's no judgment from me, but I'm there to help people that have made the decision that they want to change their relationship, perhaps with alcohol. And if you feel like I could be that person, click that link in the show notes, schedule that free 30-minute consultation call, and we can have a chat to see if I'm the right person to work with you. Anyway, this all came from just me figuring out it's been about 6 years since I changed my relationship with alcohol, and it's been good for me. And if I can help one person that wants to change their relationship with alcohol too, whether it's through this recording, my hypnosis sessions from before, or anything in the future, then that feels very fulfilling to me. So I hope you've got some benefit from this. And if you've got any kind of thoughts or comments, drop them in the comments section, or check out my Instagram, drop me a message, or you can email me at adam@adamcox.co.uk. Thanks again for listening, and the next episode definitely will be a hypnosis session. Take care.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.